How's it going, guys? Today, I wanted to talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages of video games. The argument I see everywhere is that video games are bad for you because it creates a fictional world and it makes you addicted to it. You essentially become a loser because you play video games. And I'm honestly really tired of hearing that. The simple phrase of go touch grass, it's almost like people don't think that that if you play games, you have a complete inability to go outside. People will say that gaming is not a hobby, that it's just a time waster, but then will sit in front of the TV watching the news ad nauseum, not only believing everything that they see wholesale, but not doing their own research. Those same people that watch news and call you a loser for playing video games are empty vessels. They don't actually know anything most of the time, and refuse to go outside even harder than most gamers. If you look at a lot of streamers, they work out, they get exercise, they eat healthy, or well, for the most part. There's a lot of streamers out there that don't. The people who stream 14, 15 hours a day, they may be making money, but at the very least, they are not balanced. In a way, those people let gaming completely consume their life. Another really good argument that I love is that the violent content in video games desensitizes players to real life violence, and that they become monsters for playing games. When in reality, the generation that has grown up on the internet has quite literally been watching people die since that stupid fucking website was invented. The big issue is not gaming, it is moderation. I know far too many people that had unrestricted, unfettered access to the internet and could do and look at whatever they wanted growing up. The only computer we had in my family for the longest time was in the main room, out in the open. And so many of my friends had computers and everything in their room tucked away. Some I didn't even get to talk to most of the time because they were so absorbed in what they were doing. I remember going over to a friend's house one day and he pulled up his computer and started to show me Gary's Mod and started playing the game and totally forgot I was there. I stood there for about 20 minutes before I just said, I'm leaving. And he said, okay, bye. And that was it. Didn't walk me out of his house, didn't even realize that I had gone. He texted me about 45 minutes later. He's like, where'd you go? I'm like, I'm at home. I went home because it was, one, it was dark out. Two, I wasn't getting anything out of this because I see this one thing happening that I'm not getting any participation out of. He's like, oh, look, you can spawn a watermelon. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, I didn't get the concept of it. And it didn't really dawn on me that he was trying to show me something that he wanted us to do later down the road. Little did he know that I didn't actually have a computer with a graphics card, so I couldn't even play it if I wanted to. You could say I was pretty sheltered growing up, but I also had friends that let me experience what not being sheltered was. More of my gaming experiences growing up were around people playing together. It was playing a 4-player co-op against a bunch of friends on the N64 playing GoldenEye, or it was playing Rock Band or Guitar Hero with their whole family. Me not knowing the lyrics to any of these songs, but being able to hum along because I realized that the bar was what it was counting, not actually the lyric itself. I remember my dad got a copy of Halo for the PC, and unbeknownst to him, I went and played through the entire game before he gave it back to his buddy. Gaming has always been a part of my life, but it's always been that. It's been a part. I love to go out in nature. I love to film. I love to take pictures. I love to drive. And these are all skills that I have learned that I liked or developed playing games. Learning my hand-eye coordination is pretty decent. Learning that my problem-solving skills are pretty decent. Getting inspired by games to be a little bit more creative. But most importantly, being the new way that we socialize with people. Online multiplayer games are the hub to do that. And let's not forget the sheer joy of just immersing yourself in a virtual world and going on an adventure. That is why Breath of the Wild and Skyrim and all of these open world games speak to so many people. Because yes, I'm working a 9 to 5 and I'm doing the thing that I need to do. But that game has a dragon that I want to go kill. That sounds like fun. Let me go defend this village. Video games are a powerful and wonderful source of entertainment. They even can provide some cognitive benefits. However, the big overall picture is you need to maintain a healthy balance in your life. If you get a schedule where you go to work, take care of what you need to take care of, like if you have a family, you spend time with them, and then at the end of the night, you take your time to relax and you play the game that you want to play, that's it. That's the solution. Some people will sit down, they'll watch a movie before bed, and then they'll watch another movie, and then they'll fall asleep during the third movie that they're watching. Where during those 2.5 movies, their heart rate might be a little bit elevated. They might have some little jump scare or whatever that might make them go, or there might be some suspense in the movie, and it builds and builds and builds, as does your heart rate, and then it finally resolves, and that's it. In a multiplayer game, that happens every 10 minutes. And that building of tension, that rising conflict, it only gets resolved when you die. Or if you look at more of a linear story type game, instead of watching a movie that is 2 hours long, I am playing through a movie. I am the character. I am the lead. And I go through a 40-hour campaign with twists and turns and sometimes, arguably, better writing than a lot of movies nowadays and a lot of TV shows. Here, let me come up with a better analogy for this. Let's think of movies and TV shows like a roller coaster ride. You're strapped in, you're taken on a thrilling journey with twists and turns that are predetermined by the writers and directors. Video games, on the other hand, they're like a choose-your-own-adventure book. You're still on the roller coaster, but you get to decide which path to take, and your choices can lead to different outcomes. Another key difference is the pacing of the story. In movies and TV shows, the pacing is carefully crafted to keep the audience engaged. In a video game, though, the pacing can depend completely on the player's actions. Some players might take their time exploring the game world, while others might rush through the story, making the pacing a whole lot faster. Like, for example, in my first playthrough of Starfield, I went through and just did the main quests, didn't care about anything. And if you've played through Starfield, you know that the game is built to be played over and over again. So on my second run through the game, I decided that I wanted to be a pirate in space. So I went and joined the Crimson Fleet. Didn't touch any of the main quest, and that's where I stayed. I played through the entirety of that side mission and did as much as I could with that faction. In fact, in one of the Starfield dev diaries, they explain that the difference between a Bethesda game and movie-like games is that the games that really follow a linear story, those games are just following a line of what the director wants you to see. Whereas Bethesda, even though they aren't perfect at it, they want to make a game with you being the story writer. You make up your own story and your own choices. Another example would be books. You can't really hide secrets in a book unless you're doing a lot of cryptography and codes and ciphers, and you only have so much room to do that. Whereas in a game, if I want to go down that road, I can cryptographize the entire game. All of the puzzles will be some sort of cryptogram where you have to decipher a code or solve a word puzzle, something like that. Or like Doki Doki Literature Club, that literally has you go into the files to modify them to play the game. A lot of games are not written necessarily narratively. They will take a concept and they will build upon it. They will take a game mechanic, and that game mechanic will be littered throughout the rest of the game. They will teach you the mechanic and then build upon it, and that is storytelling as well. I love it when games will take you back to the very beginning of the game. Once you've beaten everything, and all of a sudden you realize that there was an area that you could not access until you got the very last piece of this puzzle. And now you can really go finish the game. It's so rewarding to see the little intricacies that the developers put in place all throughout the game, showing you that there's more than meets the eye when it comes to these levels. Some of them have alternate paths that allow transversal throughout the level in a completely different way. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is an excellent example of this. Once you get certain abilities, you realize, oh man, this open world game quite literally just opened right up to me. I can go so many more places. Breath of the Wild does this with first the paraglider, and then each of the abilities from the Divine Beasts. Call of Duty even attempted this with the open combat missions in this campaign. I wouldn't necessarily say that it was executed properly, but the attempt was made, giving the player the ability to go back and play through levels with the things that they have already found is exactly what I'm talking about. As you can see in my very detailed layout, games are a different medium. If you like watching movies, if you like watching TV, fine. Whatever. I'm not here to shit on media in general. It's one of those things that actually will unite people when you have a good piece of media. If you listen to some directors, however, they'll say that they want it to be as divisive as possible. They want people to be talking about it, and that's all that matters. Because when people talk about it, that means somebody might go see the thing. That puts money in my pocket, and I don't care if they like it or hate it, they paid me. And love it or hate it, media is still here to stay. Gaming is a different medium though. It's not something that you can necessarily compare to a traditional movie. I think the last example I'm going to bring up is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Every single iteration of this project, this concept, this IP, every single version of it is a little different. It tells the story in a different kind of way. Because if you played the game, if you read through the graphic novels, if you watched the movie, or more recently, if you've watched the anime, they all have slightly different perspectives, but it's all the same characters. It's all the same story at the end of the day, told through the lens of somebody else or told in a completely novel new way. You may not like a certain iteration of it. It's the same thing with Star Wars. If we're looking at the different remasters and iterations of that specific movie. But somebody at some point thought that that would be a good idea. And some of those ideas stick around. So here's to this. Here's to hoping that we can have good ideas that stick around. We can have good executions of good ideas in new and novel ways. Video games and movies and TV, they're all entertainment. And sometimes will even provide some cognitive benefits, but it is essential to maintain a healthy balance in your life. That balance should help you maintain a healthy and creative mind, allowing you to see different perspectives because you have seen different storytelling methods. While movies and TV offer a more linear narrative, video games allow players to make choices that impact and change the outcome of a story. So let's take a moment to appreciate the different ways that stories are being told. Some of the most impactful stories can happen in 30 seconds. All that has to be mentioned is a single line from one movie, and if that line is executed perfectly, in that script, it offers this anchor for so many people to hold on to. But that's about it. This is Warm Sponge, signing out. Peace.